welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. I'll be your astrologer this week. Thank you guys for joining me. This is going to be the astro weather for the week of December 29th, 2024 through January 5th, 2025. Obviously, we're going to take a look at all of the transits for the week ahead, but I'm going to be touching on Venus's ingress into the sign of Pisces. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, click the bell button below and subscribe to the channel. This will let you know when I have new videos out, and I'm here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday using tarot and Western astrology and trying to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope it's a good one for you in this next year. I'm really excited to continue to keep bringing you astrological content and so stoked for all of the new energies that 2025 is going to have. If you guys don't already know, I'm going to be here on January 1st, ringing in the new year and talking about the astrology of next year. So if you guys would like to join me, please do click the link in the description below. You can pick up a ticket to my private YouTube webinar and bring your snacks, your hangover snacks, your guys' pajamas, your 2025 planners, all that stuff, because we're going to be touching on all of the major planetary changes. We're going to talk about the eclipses. We're going to do a preview of the Mars retrograde conclusion. We're going to talk Venus retrograde, nodes changing signs, and predictions for all of the 12 rising signs. It is a way to get all of my 2025 content early in advance. And if you guys can't join me live on New Year's Day, no worries, you'll be able to watch the playback. So click the link below if you guys would like to get tickets to that. I'd love to hang out with you. This week we got stuff going on. As many of you guys know, we are getting ready to come into a new moon in Capricorn, and it's a serious one. It means business. Saturn's direct, and the days following, we are going to see the sun sextiling Saturn. So it's going to be very productive for getting to where we need to go. Long-term plans, anything revolving around career, reputation, and also building the dream with Saturn in Pisces is going to be the theme this week. We will also see a return of the Mars-Pluto opposition, and this one is a bit of a bang. So pretty much from New Year's Eve all the way until the beginning of January, Mars and Pluto will be in opposition to one another. It is, very similar to the opposition that we saw at the beginning of November, except this time it's in the fixed signs of Leo, as Mars goes retrograde in Leo in opposition to Pluto and Aquarius. So that's going to definitely be a little bit of some stuff popping off around the beginning of the year. There can be some increased internal frustration in how we relate to ourselves and also those around us. We're going to see a very fiery, destined Mars trine the North Node while Mars is retrograde. So that's the way out of the tension of the opposition as Mars connects with the North Node in Aries at 0 degrees. So that's going to be interesting. There's definitely some fateful things happening, helping us all feel more inspired, more creative, more authentic, and getting on the path with where we need to go before that North Node changes signs in January and moves into the sign of Pisces. Venus will be entering Pisces, which obviously is the good news for the week. We love seeing Venus in the sign. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about this today. And this is important for a number of reasons. The South Node's connected to, obviously, Libra and Venus. So we see lots of karmic clearing in relationships. But Venus really likes being in Pisces. And this is going to be an area that is lit. Over the next several months, we will see Saturn and Neptune move through the late degrees of Pisces. The North Node's going to be there. We've got eclipses there. And Venus will actually come into shadow in January. It'll cross through the degrees, which it will retrograde back through in March. Now, we're not in that shadow period yet, but you got a nice 3 weeks or so where you can actually see some positive changes with love, money, values, style, and relationships. So things could actually get pretty great. And then the end of the week, of course, there's always some kind of catch. We're going to see a little bit of a messy communication aspect as finally, Mercury comes out of its retrograde shadow, but it's going to be forming a square to Neptune in Pisces. So there could be some issues with clarity, some deception, some miscommunications, and probably some more gnarly weather, to be honest with you guys. A lot of these squares between, Mercury and the Sun in Sagittarius to both Saturn and Neptune have been some weather issues. So we definitely saw that. I remember telling you guys like last week for my weekly video, I was like, watch what's going to happen with airlines. And well, I just so happened to be traveling when all that was going on. My plane was delayed, but not as bad as those of the people that were on American Airlines. I guess there was like a complete like shutdown for a period of time for flights. So pretty crazy to see that manifest. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So before we get into it, let's talk a little bit about Venus and Pisces. We got to talk about the good stuff. And if you guys stay tuned to the end, I will take you through the 12 rising signs and we'll talk about where Venus is moving for you guys and where she is going to be blessing you. And you have a really good window, like I said, for 3 weeks to see some nice stuff taking place. Now, from January 2nd through February the 4th, 2025, we are going to be seeing Venus in Pisces. I'm sure you're wondering, is this a good transit? The answer is yes. It can be really wonderful. It can be really sensitive, inspiring, and very romantic, to be honest with you. I feel like this is definitely a transit where emotional and, romantic aspects definitely heighten. Venus is moving through a water sign, so there's definitely going to be this increase in emotional sensitivity, compassion, and also a deeper connection in romantic relationships. So this transit will be promoting a sense of unconditional love and empathy, making it a time where people are more likely to be forgiving and understanding in their relationships. A little bit more romantic too, right? Venus moving through Pisces is definitely romantic, lots of waves of emotion. But it's also good news if you're a creator, okay? So if you're in a creative field, if you work with artistic expression, if you're a painter, a dancer, a musician, a poet, obviously Pisces is known for its creativity. So with Venus moving through the sign, there is an enhancement of any artistic pursuit. So you may be feeling more inspired to engage in activities like painting, music, or any form of artistic expression that involves emotion and imagination. This is especially good for anybody who's also involved with like film or cinematography. It can be great for that as well. But for all of us, I think that it's going to promote a sense of spiritual and inner growth because this transit leads to a deeper connection and more introspection in the sign of Pisces. And it's a period of time where individuals might feel more drawn to spiritual practices or might have a heightened sense of intuition or psychic abilities. Now, Venus does govern over finances as well. So in regards to financial and material gains, Venus moving through this particular sign can bring a tendency to overly indulge in things, really enjoy things or romanticize things. Obviously, they can be more spiritual or in regards to emotional wealth, but there can be material gains for certain signs. And this transit is thought to bring about opportunities for financial stability through creative or compassionate venture. So think like nonprofits, art, anything in regards to creativity, servicing other people, that can definitely bring opportunities for wealth and a boost in income. Now, like I said, Venus is really happy in this sign. She's exalted in Pisces because Pisces shares, I think, traits that deeply resonate with Venus's theme of love, beauty, and pleasure. So Pisces being really compassionate and I think empathic, really showing this unconditional loving nature, really complements Venus's natural desire for harmony and connection. So this combination with Venus in Pisces really allows Venus to express her qualities in her purest form, focusing on love without conditions or boundaries. Now, to best work with this transit, you just want to embrace compassion, right? The North Node's going into Pisces at the beginning of January. We're going to see Saturn and Neptune still dancing in these signs. So this is going to be an area that is going to be hot, lots of action between January and May of 2025. And we want to use this time to be more empathic and understanding in our relationships. It's an excellent period for healing old wounds through kindness and forgiveness. And like I said, it's likely to enhance creativity. So if you're wanting to express yourself emotionally in some creative or artistic project, or even just enjoy art and music and film a little bit more, it can be a wonderful time for that. I do encourage spiritual exploration. So it might be a time you're considering, doing some kind of meditations on love or with Venus. It can also be really helpful for meditation, yoga, or any type of like spiritual retreat that can be, particularly rewarding during this time. The only catch is that Venus is very romantic in this sign. And there can be really strong romantic vibes, but we want to keep an eye on reality because Pisces is obviously associated with Neptune. We want to ensure that our love life or our financial decisions are not solely based on idealistic views, but grounded in practicality. And I think that's going to come up a lot with some of the aspects Venus is going to make with connections with Neptune, the North Node, as well as Saturn in Pisces. Focus on self-care. This is so important because this is a transit that can make you a lot more sensitive. So self-care is going to be very vital, and focus on activities that nurture your soul and maintain your emotional well-being. Now, something to think about, like I said, is somewhere towards the latter part of January 2025, around the 24th, we are going to see Venus come into shadow. So this is essentially, pretty much like the first phase of the retrograde that's going to begin. We will not see Venus turn retrograde until the beginning of March of 2025, but Venus will be going through the degrees which she will retrograde back through. So starting on January 24th, we may start to see the effects of the incoming Venus retrograde that will happen about 5 or 6 weeks later. And essentially, when we have a shadow, there is activation. So it's kind of like with the Mercury retrograde, as Mercury is getting ready to turn retrograde in those degrees, we start to see communication go haywire. Same thing with Venus. So we can see that leading to the latter part of January, this period is really bringing up themes and issues relating to Venus, and it will we start to see these issues start to surface. Some ways that this can kind of play out is many people may be going through in January and February some kind of relationship review. Okay, so you're gonna have to look at what house Pisces is. That's where Venus will be retrograding back to. It will actually start its retrograde in Aries, but we might be reevaluating that particular house or relationships, or looking at previous relationship dynamics or unresolved issues in current relationships. It can also bring up themes that can be more pronounced during the retrograde, like questioning the value or satisfaction of the relationships that we're in. But it can also be a time of financial reflection. So because Venus is connected to values and money, we might be reconsidering our financial habits, our investments, or even our spending patterns. So it might make sense, to just kind of take our time in regards to these areas. If we're not feeling satisfied with our current financial arrangements, or there's a desire to reassess what's valuable to us, we might be kind of making preparations to do that. Venus retrograde can definitely bring about some aesthetic changes as well. And typically during a Venus retrograde, it's not a good time to make major aesthetic changes, major, cut colors, cosmetic procedures, major style changes, but we may be feeling like we want to make a change. Pisces is a mutable sign. It's the last sign of the zodiac, so it can be wrapping things up. So we're wrapping up something about how we've always looked, or maybe we're reflecting on old photos or videos or things and thinking about how we can enhance our look or our appearance in some way. But it can also be like home decor, or what beauty or comfort means to you. And maybe we're going to be reevaluating that pretty much January into March, and then we'll start making some of those changes during the retrograde. Watch for old relationships. Old flames can definitely appear. Unresolved, relationship stuff can kind of come up and resurface, and it can be just in our thoughts or even in our reality. And it may not necessarily mean full-blown reunions, but like this theme of like past love, kind of coming back up, and like echoes of where we've been and the decisions we've made, and like, having some sense of closure if necessary. I do think we can see some themes revolving around creative blocks coming up and insights into that, because Venus is connected to creativity. So if we feel like there's been a dip in our creative flow, we might be kind of getting back into our creative projects and feeling more so inspired. And maybe we'll be revisiting some of those projects during the retrograde. I do think that because Venus will be retrograde in a sign that it's not going to do well in, so it'll retrograde in Aries, and its retrograde will be very close to Mercury, we've got this reworking of the heart and the mind simultaneously, and it's in the sign of self. So it'll start its retrograde in Aries, retrograde back to Pisces. So I do think that there's going to be a much more pronounced sense of like minor misunderstandings or miscommunications in love or financial matters, or, this could be setting the stage for more significant issues that can come up during the retrograde. But it's more a personal sense of reevaluation. What do I love? What do I desire? What do I value? And in order to, have clarity on those matters, we're going to have to retrograde, go back, and we're going to have to kind of clear things up so we can start something new. So if you have wanted a new relationship, if you have wanted a new style, if you have wanted a new kind of like financial, goal, anything like that, you're going to be working on that throughout this period. But what this creates for us, I think, from Aries back into Pisces is this desire for freedom, this desire for change. And there will probably be coming up in January and February, this like subtle push towards wanting more freedom in personal expression or relationships, hinting at more significant shifts that might be occurring, you know, when Venus goes retrograde in the month of March. And just watch for the emotional sensitivity, I think, that can kind of come up during this time, because Pisces is a very sensitive sign. Venus going into, you know, its shadow can definitely bring up vibes in relationships that we may have not been aware of or that have been overlooked. And we're preparing to kind of take a deeper look at some of these themes and do the necessary emotional work while it's retrograde. Now, I will do a deeper dive into this as we're getting closer to the Venus retrograde and kind of talk about some of the themes more deeply. So I just want to focus more on Venus direct right now, because like I said, you've got a great 3 weeks or so up until the 24th that you've got some really nice aspects that are going to be taking place. So if you guys want to see these dates, click the description below. You'll see all of the astro weather for the next week, and you will also see these dates to watch. So in my mind, this is phase 1. And I'm going to take you guys through the transits that are going to go the first go round up until Venus goes into Aries between now and February. Phase 2 will actually be, you know, when we're in the shadow. So it'll be like the 24th of January on. And then phase 3 will be the retrograde, which will be in March. We will see a post shadow as well, by the way. So it's going to be interesting because between January and May, we're going to see Venus that's going to be strictly between 2 signs, you know, Pisces or Aries. So watch for like a part 2 or even a part 3 of this video. It's going to be coming up as we get closer to the retrograde. But for me, you know, starting in this next week, we're going to see on January the 2nd, Venus will enter into Pisces. Okay, so it'll be on the 2nd, but Venus will enter Pisces on the 2nd, and it will be there for the first phase all the way up until about the 4th, the 4th of February. So we've got a whole month of Venus in Pisces, 3 weeks of Venus not being in shadow yet. Make the best of it. Now, some of these aspects you're going to see several times over. So I just want to kind of put that out there right off the top of this. You will see Venus come into contact with Saturn. You will see Venus that will come into contact with Neptune. You will see Venus come into contact with the North Node. And then she will turn retrograde in March, and she will make all of these aspects again. Now, I say this because history repeats itself. So when you start to see some of these conjunctions, which in astrology is the strongest aspect you can have, this is taking 2 planets and fusing them together. These topics will be rehashed or reviewed down the road when we're getting into March and April of 2025, when Venus retrogrades from Aries back into Pisces, returns back to some of the stuff that's kind of come up possibly in January and February. So on the 14th of the month, you will see Venus come into her first big aspect, and this is going to be the square to Jupiter. Now, I don't believe this is going to happen another time over. I'll have to look. It's possible. But Venus square Jupiter, you know, Venus is in a superior placement. She's, you know, kind of squaring Jupiter from the left-hand side. So to me, this is like love conquers all, right? And the truth, Jupiter's the truth in matters of love and money. Obviously, you know, Jupiter is the dispositor of Venus, which makes it pretty sweet. She's in a superior position. She's approaching Saturn, so there's some serious commitment when it comes to love, maybe some significant sacrifice. And I think just globally, this is going to be more efforts towards helping those in need, right? So it could be, you know, the homeless, you know, those who are struggling with, you know, addiction, those who are lost, those who are in need of support. It could be health support, psychological support, and maybe laws and rules and things governing these topics, because Jupiter is in, you know, is in Gemini. So more people talking about what can we do for those in need? How can we help them? Secondly, I think something that's worth thinking about is, you know, Pisces, so much of the Pisces transits in the spring is going to be this unveiling. Pisces is what's hidden, what's behind the scenes, what is Neptunian. It sometimes can be stuff that's not true. It could be falsified, or, you know, things that have been, I guess, kind of vague or manipulated or distorted in some way. Okay, so Where does money go? Venus in Pisces square Jupiter and Gemini. Where are some of these funds being allocated towards, especially, you know, Saturn being there? It could be in regards to government. It could be, you know, what nonprofits are doing with money, what some of these private organizations are doing with money. How is that influencing laws, or how is that influencing even media? The money that's flowing into stuff and the effect that it's having on Gemini things. Social media, TV, radio, you know, things revolving around advertising, things revolving around laws. So all of that stuff is going to be kind of coming up. And like, you don't need an astrologer to tell you this. Spring is going to be very colorful because Pisces is all about private institutions. It can be about hospitals. It can be about pharmaceuticals. And we're going to start to kind of see this unveiling, this peeling back. And we start to see just how much money is influencing our media. How much are they getting paid to convey certain narratives, to run certain kind of advertising campaigns or certain commercials, right? Anyway, so that's going to be a theme that's going to come up. I think with Venus square Jupiter, there is this tendency to overdo it. Overdoing the candy, overdoing the spending, overdoing the consuming, you know, feeling very, very romantic. And maybe we're a lot more communicative with the squares to Jupiter and a mercurial sign with the I love yous, or how you feel, or telling people, you know, just kind of expressing your emotions. That may come up. So it's not a difficult transit per se, but it's definitely where I think there can be a lot of people who are saying, you know what, I need to feel it. I want to feel the love. I don't want you to just tell me what I want to hear. And certainly Venus in Pisces, you know, it can be seen as a placement that is very self-sacrificial and willing to just give, and not always kind of receiving what it needs as well. And that can be something that can come up in some relationships with that square. Now, things start to get interesting around the 18th of January, and this is going to be the very first time that Venus and Saturn come into conjunction, and it will happen several times, okay? So we're going to see a Venus-Saturn conjunction happening again around the beginning of April. I think it's going to be around the 7th of April, and then we're going to see one that's going to be even later on when it's direct. So the first one taking place on the 19th is something you're going to watch, because you're going to see this theme of Venus-Saturn, love and commitment in relationships. What we are willing to sacrifice for those things or people or situations that we love. Love lasting in some capacity or going through some kind of test. In traditional like Vedic astrology, Venus and Saturn love each other very much. It can almost be seen as like laying the foundation or the cement for a long-term commitment, like a marriage, a business partnership, a business with a long-term client, that kind of stuff. So, you know, Venus coming into conjunction with Saturn in its exaltation, I think is like, you know, us recognizing and realizing that if we really love someone or if we really love something, we have to sometimes let it go. We have to make a sacrifice. We have to kind of give something up. Or in order to really truly love someone, we have to be compassionate. We have to forgive. We don't hold grudges. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, because that's going to get kind of worked out, like I said, several times over with the conjunctions really between January and May. And this will be happening at a 16. So this is going to be taking place at like a Cancer degree. So love of the homeland, love of your family, property, real estate, values, money, you know, things involving maybe even long-term family traditions, maybe that are getting kind of tested. That kind of stuff is likely going to be kind of coming up. So that'll be the first conjunction of 3. Then we're going to get into what I consider phase 2 of the Venus transit. And from here on, we're in the shadow. So as an astrologer, I can't rightfully say to you, yes, at the end of January or February, go plan your wedding, buy the expensive jewelry, get the cosmetic surgery. Why? Why can I not tell you that if Venus is exalted in Pisces? Very close to the North Node, which means we don't really know exactly what the future holds yet. It will also be in conjunction to Neptune, which means there can be some things that can be falsified, phony, deceptive, or unclear when it comes to love and money. And it's going to be in retrograde shadow. So do everything you want to do either prior to the 24th or roll the dice, see what's going to happen throughout this very long kind of Venus cycle. we wait until we get closer to, like, let's say the end of April going into May. Let's get Venus, you know, out of this shadow period, and then we kind of go from there. Because there's just way too much kind of going on with the stellium of planets that are in Pisces, and Venus being sandwiched between Saturn, Lord of Karma, long-term commitments, responsibility, and Neptune, where something is not clear. We may be thinking we're making a long-term investment. That could be financially, that could be in a cosmetic procedure, that could be in a relationship, only for it to be reviewed or something to be revealed to us that's like, hey, actually, this is not necessarily what you thought, or it might be a scam, or it may not be a good investment. So proceed carefully from this period on. On the 24th of January, we will see Venus come into shadow, and she will actually retrograde from 24 degrees of Pisces to 10 degrees of Aries. Actually, I think we could push that a little bit more. It looks like it's going to be right around here. So I take that back. It's going to be closer to the let's say like the 27th. So the 27th is right around the time that Venus is going to hit 24 degrees of Pisces. So that's what it'll retrograde back to. All right, so then on the 25th, something that I missed here, we're also going to see, as Venus is coming into shadow, she's going to trine Mars. Okay, so Venus trine Mars is pretty nice. It means that we have some alignment, something fortuitous that's kind of aligning when it comes to relationships, harmony, partnerships. It's not as potent because at this point, the North and the South Node have already changed signs. So we don't have the North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra anymore, putting an emphasis on those two planets. But still, the trine means that, especially when it comes to business, because this is at 22 degrees, long-term commitments in relationships, long-term commitments in home situations, okay, family situations. Mars isn't a domestic sign. And Venus being in Pisces, you know, if we can dream it, if we can envision it, we can make those necessary changes. Like I said, not as important maybe as in recent years, but still a good aspect. Then we get to the 27th, we come into shadow. So this is where Venus is going to retrograde back to. And then we're going to get to February 1st. And on February 1st, we're going to be seeing Venus conjunct Neptune for the very first time. Now, once again, similar to Venus conjunct Saturn, where there is some crystallization of long-term commitments and relationships. We've got, you know, Venus conjuncting Neptune. Neptune, you know, Venus and Neptune can also be very idealistic, very romantic, very creative, very beautiful and sensitive, and very self-sacrificial and wanting to give to the collective in some way. It's like a dream for, you know, musicians or poets or people who are involved in cinematography or cinema or photography. Like, this could be great. It could also be a time where there's lots of illusions in love and money. Interesting that this is at 27 degrees. So versus the Saturn-Venus conjunction, which was at like a Cancer degree, which is about home and family, this one's in a communication degree, a Gemini degree. So one thing that I would say happens notoriously when we're seeing like a Venus Neptune transit or, you know, a Venus retrograde is things are revealed. Like, we start to see the truth revealed about relationships, who we're really with, what we didn't know, what hasn't been working. Sometimes there are things that have been kind of beneath the surface and they just now become like more obvious and apparent. But with Venus coming into shadow in a Gemini degree conjunct Neptune, I think we're going to see lots of you know, people telling people what they want to hear, or finding out that in some relationships, people are having secret affairs and they're talking to people or emailing or texting people that we didn't know about. It could also mean that there's more than one romantic interest. And obviously a Gemini degree can kind of bring up doubles, okay? Not for everybody, but for some people we can experience this. It can also mean that we're feeling very compelled to communicate and talk about our feelings. What you will then see the next day is then Venus is going to come into conjunction with the North Node, which is fated, destined, romantic and financial situations happening. This could mean that this is like a time period where if we're karmically meant to kind of meet and connect to somebody, we may. It could mean that there's also new things that are being kind of proposed. or being offered to us. And it can be financially, it could be new beauty treatments, it could be things involving, new luxury purchases and stuff like that. And it's futuristic. The North Node, we don't know what we're going to get. So, once again, I'm trying to take into consideration there's so many other planets here. It's not just Venus conjunct the North Node. It's been conjunct Neptune as well as Saturn. And the day that Venus connects with the North Node, notice that Neptune and Venus are also at a 28. So this is once again another Cancer degree. I think of like Venus conjunct Saturn can be very much about, if we love something, we protect it. We create that boundary in love or finances and relationships. I think we're going to hear a lot about borders and, countries investing more in their borders and protecting their homeland and homeland security. Then we go to the beginning of February and we see yet another Cancer degree coming up. And the truth is like Venus conjunct the North Node and Neptune could mean that the most loving thing we can do is to say, we're setting it free, we're releasing it. It can also mean that we're trying to kind of deal with themes revolving around immigration, around, people who are seeking asylum in a loving, humane way, that we're trying to do something in a humane way where we're being kind. It's not being brutal or just casting people kind of out of places. It's trying to find ways to bring resources, services, and compassionate care for those who may potentially need it. Still, lots of secrets that can be coming up though in regards to love and money and in our own lives, and questioning where maybe a relationship is going or what's kind of happening in one of those scenarios. And then we will see both of these aspects, both Venus conjunct the Neptune in Pisces. We'll see that again actually at the end of March, and then we're going to see it again kind of towards the latter part of April of 2025. And then we will see Venus coming into conjunction with the North Node also again at the end of March, and then again at the end of April, and then again at the beginning of May. So like, my goodness, pretty much from January all the way till May, we're dealing with Venus kind of coming in and out of Pisces and Aries. So it's going to be within these two particular signs. Then we're going to see on the 4th of February, Venus will be moving into Aries. Now, yes, it's changing signs. It's going to be in Aries for about a month, kind of similar to what we just saw with Venus in Pisces, but it's still in shadow. Venus is only going to get up to about 10 degrees before at the beginning of March, she will retrograde back, and she will be coming back into Pisces, where both Saturn and the North Node and Neptune are going to be. The late degrees of Pisces is the most sensitive, the most emotional, sometimes the most tears, the most confusion, and then it's about wrapping things up and kind of dissolving things. And when you think about it from the perspective of the zodiac, Pisces is where like the soul kind of reinvents itself, or it reincarnates. It goes through this lesson and then something new is reborn. Aries is about being born. So things are getting kind of cleared up. We're starting to finally get to a turning point where in matters of love and finances, things need to be revealed. We need to see the truth when it comes to our financial investments, our values, where our money is going, how it's being spent. Some of us may feel like we're kind of getting to a critical time in relationships or in financial situations where we need help, we need support, spiritual support, financial support, emotional support. And I think that this is just going to be a really interesting time. I feel like the astrology would not be emphasizing so much of the late degrees of Pisces, the early degree of Aries, unless something very big is coming. And you guys are going to have to watch this. You're going to have to see. I mean, obviously, if you are a Venus ruled chart, so if you're a Taurus, if you're a Libra rising, this is going to be very significant for you. But also for my Pisces, okay, risings, and my Aries risings, because Venus will be retrograding through these particular signs. So Venus is going to be here for a month. You guys have until about the 27th, and then we're going to start to see that she's getting into shadow from pretty much the end of January all the way through February. I would keep my eyes out there and watching and alert in the Pisces area of your chart, because there's something that's going to kind of get reworked or reinvented in some way. Okay. So we'll do a part 2 on that soon as we're getting closer to the retrograde. Until then, let's get into the transits for this week, the week of December 29th I think we're going through the 5th of January 2025. So to those of you guys who are watching on Sunday, happy Sunday to my Sunday crew. I hope you guys are good. I hope everybody enjoyed their holiday. You guys had a happy holiday and you're ready for New Year's. Well, when you guys are waking up on Sunday the 29th, okay, the moon is in Sagittarius, so there is much more emphasis on optimism, joy, travel, learning, anything revolving around that. And since late last night on Saturday, Mercury has been in conjunction to the moon, so there has been much more emphasis on being optimistic, sharing, planning things, traveling, going places, doing stuff. And as we wake up, she is now kind of starting to separate from Mercury, coming out of the opposition with Jupiter, and the moon will be coming into a square with Neptune. This is also a dark moon. So this is like the day before we're getting into the Capricorn new moon, which will be on the 30th at 9 degrees. So we're clearing stuff out. We're supposed to be getting quiet. We're supposed to be reflecting. We're not supposed to be doing anything new right now. You might feel like people are kind of crabby or kind of cranky. That's generally what happens with the dark moon. And as we start to see the moon is coming into a square with Neptune, really the only nice aspect the moon is making is a sextile to Venus. Oops, sorry guys. So as she's coming into that, the moon's going to pick up a sextile to Venus around midday. Okay, so mid-Sunday could be a little bit better for socializing, but then later in the day, the moon's going to square Neptune, and that's going to be around dinner time. So I'm Central, so it'll be around 4 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. So kind of the sweet spot's going to be midday. Otherwise, there could be some difficulties in emotionally relating to people, some miscommunication, some confused feelings and emotions, plans that don't always go according to plan. So try to get your stuff done in kind of midday. That's the time that you want to do that. Jupiter is the ruler of Sag. It is still retrograde, and we are now slowly coming out of what was just the second Saturn-Jupiter square, where we're kind of feeling like, you know, there's sides of us that want to expand in some area of our life. We want to expand in communication, learning, travel, Gemini things. And then there's the Saturn aspect, which is kind of pulling us back, and it's not really allowing us to feel as capable of growing or traveling or communicating, and a little less than optimistic. So we're feeling that maybe a little bit right now. It's starting to fade, and as we get into Sunday in the evening, the moon is going to be ingressing into Capricorn. So as you guys wake up in the morning on Monday the 30th, we're coming into what will be the new moon. Now, if you guys didn't catch that video, check it out. I put it out there. Something that's going to happen very early Monday morning is the moon is going to square its own nodes, which means like fateful events are happening tied to this moon. It could be happening on Sunday, it could be happening really early on Monday. But the moon is basically saying there are Capricorn things that are happening in the world that's impacting us on an individual level, North Node in Aries, and on a collective kind of relationship level, South Node in Libra. And some of these things can be like, you know, leadership matters, government matters, themes revolving around responsibility, work matters that are kind of impacting us very early on Monday. And then once it comes out of that square, which most of you guys will be sleeping, then we're going to come into what will be the new moon in Capricorn. And that's going to be happening later in the afternoon. It looks like it's going to be around 2 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. And we'll have a new moon in Capricorn, 9 degrees, which is, I think, a little bit more optimistic about what our professional goals are, where we have long-term goals, things that are going to take a while to build and kind of create. It does quincunx Jupiter, so we're having to learn how to kind of, you know, buckle down, stay committed, not just talk about making plans, like do the work. And it is sextiling Saturn, which is the ruler, which is direct. So to be honest with you guys, this particular new moon, you'll see the next couple of days, like really from the time the moon's in Capricorn until the time that it's like in Pisces, is going to be a really good time to kind of get going with some of your goals. And it just so happens to be kind of connecting and correlating with the new year. So as many of you guys know, you know how I feel about New Year's. I feel like really the true New Year is going to be when the sun's going into Aries in the springtime here in the Northern Hemisphere. But if you're somebody who wants to have New Year's kind of resolutions and stuff, not a bad new moon to do that. It's interesting also that, you know, we see there is, you know, this, like I said, not just this quincunx to Jupiter, but there is a slight quincunx also to Mars. So it's almost like the Capricorn new moon is the focal point between Mars retrograde in Leo, reworking, reevaluating what we're most passionate about, what we love, how can we be our most creative, authentic selves, and how to communicate. So it's kind of saying, okay, you know, get down to business, find the words, figure out the inspiration, reconnect to the things, the people, the places that you need to help inspire you, I think, to make a major change in the direction of your career and your reputation. I also think that, you know, we have some other stuff that's kind of going on in the skies. Mercury has been square Saturn. It's been difficult communication this last week or difficult travel. Mercury's been in opposition to Jupiter. There's been a lot of big ideas, but do we have the vision? Do we have the capability of being able to buckle down and get it all done? Venus has been square Uranus. There's been some friction and some changes in tension with relationships. So, you know, all of that is still kind of brewing in the background. But what's most important to me is the fact that Saturn is direct. It is sextile the new moon. And even in spite of Saturn square Jupiter, where we have been a little less than maybe optimistic or positive, this is saying it's time to kind of plant new seeds and focus on building our vision for the future. So definitely make the most of this new moon. If you have anything 8, 9, 10 degrees of Capricorn, it's going to be the most prominent for you. Now, right after the new moon in the PM hours, we're going to see the moon then come into a sextile with Saturn. So that's really going to be from the new moon time in the evening all the way until most of us are going to bed. So that's great for manifestation and setting intentions. And then this is going to take us into what will be the 31st, which is Tuesday. Now, Tuesday is another decent working day. That moon still in Capricorn is still sextile Saturn, so it's productive. It's able to hold the vision for what it's hoping to build or complete or let go of. It's also simultaneously building into a trine with Uranus. So for those of you guys who are like 2025, this is the year I'm changing my career. This is the year I'm launching my business. This is the year that I'm getting my money right. This is the year that I'm changing my relationship with food, resources, material goods. That moon trine Uranus is saying you can make that change if you're committed to it, if you believe in it, if you believe that you can buckle down and be a little bit more on top of some of your goals or committed or mature about it, you can definitely make some big changes here. The only catch is that the moon's picking up a square to Chiron in Aries, which is now direct. So some of us might feel like, you know, I'm going into 2025 being like, I have to change my job or my career or my schedule because it's killing me. Chiron in Aries is how we're actually feeling the effects, the wounds. I have been thinking a lot about Chiron in Aries recently, and the conclusion that I've come to in a nutshell is that I think a lot of this transit is about whether or not we have courage. Remember, Chiron is wounding, and Aries is usually does not mind getting wounded. It does not mind kind of getting battered and bruised. It can kind of take a lot. It's scrappy. But I think this is where we're lacking some of the traditional traits that Aries would have. So do we have the courage to change our career, to change our career path, to stand up to a boss? Are we finally getting to a point where we're like, man, work has really been wearing on us. Is it really worth the impact that it's having to our physical or our emotional health? Some of you guys may feel that. That might be kind of coming up for you a little bit on the 31st. But that's going to be a pretty quick passing square. And when we come out of that square by about midday, then the moon in Capricorn is sextiling Neptune. Okay, so that means that we can be, you know, more willing to forgive and forget. We can be more compassionate, sensitive, nurturing. We can be more willing to let things go. Maybe actually for some of us on the 30th and the 31st, we're like, we're not working. We're really taking the time off. We're really strategizing and prioritizing where we're going forward in the world. That could definitely be a theme. So I think that that can be a good one kind of heading into New Year's Eve. And as we're coming into New Year's Eve, it does look like the moon will be in Capricorn. So if you're somebody who likes to look at the, New Year's Day chart at 12 o'clock midnight, this is basically saying, I think there's a new phase that's being rolled in 2025. That's a lot of new jobs, a lot of new career changes, a lot of new responsibility, new government, new leadership, all new things in regards to Capricorn, and the impacts that that's going to have on the financial system, the banking system, Uranus and Taurus. Anyway, so as we continue to go forward into January 1st, if you stay up all night, then you'll see the transition or like the ingress. But if you're waking up first thing in the morning on January the 1st, there are some very gnarly aspects. And you guys know me. You go back to the video that I did before. I was saying, oh, we have some really, negative aspects that could include somebody getting hurt in a crowd. And we saw the shooting that happened, unfortunately, for the Chiefs Super Bowl celebration, right? This is very similar to that. And I don't like saying that. I don't promote fear on my channel, but it's almost like there is an event coming that may happen right around New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, that is going to have some people go, oh my God, is this really how 2025 is going to start? I'm going to tell you guys, I don't think the year is going to be like this, but the year goes off literally with a bang, right? You've got not only on New Year's Eve, Mars is coming back into its exact opposition with Pluto again, which will kind of take place from the 30th all the way through about like the 3rd or the 4th. But then you've got the moon, which is our emotional bodies and how the kind of the world is reflecting emotionally conjuncts Pluto. Could mean that everybody on New Year's Eve is like, next year shit's gonna change. We're gonna have a change. And maybe the change is, the people that you're celebrating with. Moon Pluto could mean that you're with a different crowd. Moon Pluto could mean, you're reflecting on some of the experiences that you have had with your friends, your social connections, your networks, your goals in this last year. And you're like, you know what? I need to do better. I need to radically change things for the future. That's the positive manifestation of it. The negative is that you see, Mars and Pluto opposing each other. And I feel like New Year's Eve could definitely have some kind of attack type energy. Like there's no real easy way to spin it. This is an opposition that is deadly. It's brutal. There could be conflicts. There could be fights. There could be weapons. And Mars is retrograde. So it's much more about internal frustration. Mars, when it's retrograde Leo, can act out. It can definitely have a big ego. It can get angry. It can throw a fit. And the opposition to Pluto is somebody is acting out in a selfish kind of, childish way, and somebody or a crowd responds to that very strongly, or there is some kind of conflict or violence in a crowd. So if you're going out New Year's Eve in the evening, be mindful of your surroundings. Know that there's going to be people who are going to be popping off. Know that you're going to probably hear some kind of a report about some person who was injured or attacked, or something that was connected to Mars. Flames, heat, weapons, things that are sharp. We're not even remotely close to this opposition yet. It's not exact yet, but we've now heard it in the news now that there's been 2 people in New York City that have supposedly, according to the news, been set on fire. I heard about it over this last week, where there was somebody who was with a knife attacking people in New York City. I mean, these are not isolated events. These are things that you're going to start hearing about more over the next week or two. So be mindful when you're out and about. It is a New Year's Eve that is probably best spent at home or with a smaller group of people, rather than being out, where some of this stuff is most likely going to be taking place in a crowd, in my opinion. Also, I think of fireworks. Okay, I think of people who might be speeding or being reckless in vehicles. These are going to be things that you're going to hear about with Mars retrograde in opposition to Pluto, or just some kind of brawls and conflicts that are happening with friends, and then it turns into something. Especially Mars retrograde could be near theaters, outside of theaters, near bars, by casinos. That kind of stuff might be the places that you're seeing more of this stuff kind of happening. But The moon is a trigger for events. So as the moon conjuncts Pluto, there is some emotional turbulence, there's some drama, and it's being brought on by somebody else's actions. Mars retrograde. So not the easiest way to start New Year's, obviously. It will be quick moving. You know, that moon is going to also trine the south node. So if there is some kind of drama with friends or relationships or something, there could be some clearing, some separating, or, you know, clearing the kind of karmic contracts that we have in relationship to other people. And this Mars-Pluto opposition is the exact same opposition we had at the beginning of November, but it was in Capricorn and Cancer. So it's opposing again in different signs. And when we look at the prospective rulers, we look at, you know, Uranus. Uranus is retrograde. Venus has just squared it. And we've also got the ruler of Mars, or the dispositor of Mars, is the sun. And the sun is going to be at an 11 degree. So is it going to be about how big business or government or leadership is responding to some kind of conflict or attack? Obviously, I hope that does not happen, but things are going to get, I think, a little heated at the beginning of the year. And then it's going to start to kind of taper off a little bit. Now, as we continue to go through New Year's Day, that moon is going to come out of a conjunction with Pluto and the opposition with Mars. So in the off chance something happens, you're hearing about this first thing in the morning. And then the moon is going to start to come out of the opposition by midday. Moon's going to keep moving. Nothing really else is going to be taking place on Wednesday. But I will say that the north and the south node are now at 0 degree cardinal points. And so we call this the world axis point, 0 degrees of the cardinal signs. All right. And if you guys think back to right before the moon went into Capricorn, squared the nodes. So then we have the north and the south node move into these 0 degrees from the beginning of January till about the 11th. It will sit at 0 degrees, which means there can be some global events, some things that can take place that are very big around these particular degrees. This is the same place where the Venus retrograde, the Mercury retrograde is going to take place in March. So that's also going to be some big events. But I would just say, yeah, there could be some things kind of going on that are getting a little bit more visibility out in the news in regards to Aries and Libra things. War, conflict, you know, relationships, international relationships, major relationships, you know, kind of making the news in some way. And then the moon's going to keep moving through Aquarius. It will pick up a trine to Jupiter first thing in the morning on Thursday the 2nd, which could definitely be lighting up the internet, be bringing up lots of themes revolving around, you know, Aquarius things, conspiracy, you know, and communications and sharing information and news with people. So it's a very kind of chatty, kind of communicative day on Thursday the 2nd. The moon will later in the day come into a square with Uranus, which obviously is the modern day ruler. So with moon in Aquarius square Uranus does mean that there can be some turbulence with emotional, you know, relationships, some money conflicts, some drama revolving around money or resources. And how people, collective networks are responding to that. You know, Mars is going retrograde too in Leo. Mars is about the markets. It is speculative stuff. So that retrograde in opposition to Pluto could have some people kind of panicking or freaking out about what's going on with the markets. And just recently, since right around Christmas, we've had Jupiter square Saturn. So this was all kind of correlating to like some downturns, some things not going so pleasant with the markets. Is it possible that, you know, the beginning of the year we're seeing, you know, that there is some more turbulence that's kind of happening, or is the market reacting to some kind of world events? Maybe. It looks like the last aspect on Thursday will be the moon will sextile Chiron. And then that's pretty much it. Notice that Mars has not come exactly into opposition to Pluto yet. So it's hanging around like the 31st, the 1st. But the actual Mars-Pluto opposition will be exact, it looks like, going into the 3rd, I want to say. So let's see. So the moon's going to keep moving through Aquarius. We wake up first thing in the morning on Friday the 3rd. The moon is in Aquarius, and then it's going to change signs. So right around 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Central, noon Eastern, the moon's going to move into Pisces. Okay, so it does look like overnight on the 2nd is when the Mars-Pluto stuff is happening. So it could be on the 2nd, it could be on the 3rd. And we don't need planets to be exact in an opposition or an aspect for something to happen. This could just be a continuation of whatever's been brewing since, you know, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. But overnight is when that aspect is going to be exact. And this is when you want to be very careful. You don't want to be picking fights. You want to be mindful that there are people who are going to be very enraged with Mars retrograde. They're going to be frustrated. You're going to see some people who are going to want violence. They're going to want to fight. Kids having tantrums, drama with younger kids, drama with romantic partners and lovers, issues at parties, lovers' spats, like that kind of stuff will happen with Mars and Leo. Anyway, then we're going to be getting into on, let's see, later on the 3rd, moon moves into Pisces, sweeter aspects, okay? So even though that Mars-Pluto stuff is brewing, now the moon is going to move into a water sign, which is much more emotional, much more sensitive, much more compassionate, and it's going to meet with Venus. So I could see like on the 3rd, a lot of smoothing things over, forgiving, trying to be more considerate, more compassionate, needing more love, needing more sweetness, needing more romance. It's picking up the energy of Jupiter, which is retrograde. But Moon and Venus is going to show us the vibe of where we're going. The North Node's going to be in Pisces soon. Do we, forgive people when they apologize? Are we more in tune with what other people need? Are we willing to get outside of ourselves and try to help others and be kind and compassionate and generous? Maybe you feel that energy on the 3rd kind of come through. Neptune is also one of the rulers. It is direct and it's at a 27. So maybe we are just trying to kind of communicate and express with words how we feel and how other people mean to us. And you're going to see now Mercury is coming out of shadow. So the Mercury retrograde post-shadow is over. There's still some Mercury retrograde, like not Mercury retrograde, but there's still some Mercury stuff happening towards the end of the week when Mercury squares Neptune, but we're coming out of that shadow. The moon is going to continue to go through Pisces. It's not doing much, okay? So you're going to see for pretty much the rest of the day on the 3rd, not much else is happening. And then going into the 4th, which will be Saturday, we wake up in the morning on Saturday and the moon is in Pisces and it's conjunct Saturn. So unlike the moon-Venus conjunction happening the day prior, where it's all like sweet and romance and kind of harmony, moon conjunct Saturn is this hard emotional work, emotional commitment, emotional boundaries, emotional sacrifice, feeling drained, feeling kind of spent. And it looks like that conjunction is going to be at 14 degrees. So we might be hearing more revolving around government spending, money, budgeting. We might feel emotionally tapped out. We might feel like we've given more than, what we can give. And at least the Moon and Saturn are going to sextile the sun. So whatever commitments you were making around the new moon in Capricorn, now you're like, okay, in order to fulfill these commitments, I have to be willing to come to peace with something or forgive someone or, let something go or donate something or give things away. So this will help you kind of build on some of the intentions that you set with that new moon in Capricorn earlier in the week. Now the moon will also square Jupiter. So it's going to feel overstimulated. It's going to feel like it's not sure if it's ready to communicate. It's not sure how to respond. We could be emotionally responding to things with the moon square Jupiter very wildly. We could say too much. We could feel too much. But with the moon conjunct Saturn, it's tapering that. It's like saying, rather than responding, take a second, think about it, pause and reflect, sleep on it, meditate. Don't just emotionally respond to things. Just kind of let the dust settle. So that might be something that you want to do on Saturday. We might be feeling a little bit more inclined to just want to, stay down, stay in bed, keep to ourselves, have a kind of quiet, chill day on Saturday. And that moon then is going to be Saturday into Sunday, kind of trapped between Saturn and Neptune. So then it's like, okay, Saturday night, Sunday, you know, are we going to give into the bad habits? Are we going to overdrink, oversleep, drug, overindulge, you know, isolate ourselves? Are we going to spend all weekend in bed? You know, some people may feel like that, especially with Venus in Pisces now, that they want to indulge more, they want to check out more. And I would just say, be mindful of some of your habits and your emotional habits that can be coming up at that time. Then we're going to see on the 4th, it looks like Mars is coming into a trine with the North Node. Such polar energy. Like on one hand, we have the stellium of planets in Pisces that's like, crack a bottle of wine, you know, binge watch Netflix for 6 hours, don't get anything done, cry, you know, do some drugs. I'm not saying you should do those things, but just emotionally with Venus and the Moon in Pisces, people are going to feel like that. And then on the other hand, there is this really strong Mars, which is the ruler of the North Node, retrograde in Leo. How can we reflect, redirect our energy, maybe focus on some of our goals, be creative, get things done, and like initiate something new? Like the energies could not be more different. I feel like Mars, Aries energy, and like Venus, Pisces energy are so polar opposite. So you're going to fall into one of those two camps. And I would encourage you to actually really use this Mars trine the North Node and look at the areas of Leo and Aries in your chart, because that's where there's going to be the most action kind of taking place. Otherwise, you're going to be kind of, you know, wanting to do your Pisces things. And when the ruler of the North Node trines the North Node, it's wonderful. If you also look at the dispositor of Mars, it's the Sun, and it's sextiling. So it's like, on one hand, it is teaching us that it can't be all work and no play, that it can't be all work and no rest, that we do need to have rest and recuperation to stay busy and stay focused. We do need to feel inspired in order to get things done. We do need to have a vision and a plan. And sometimes doing nothing is something. That is the answer. Sometimes it means before we initiate something new, we got to clear out, we got to get rid of, we got to, you know, do some of this stuff. And that's how I'm going to use it. It's kind of interesting because I've been so busy all the way up until the 1st. I'm a Libra rising, but I've been so busy up until the 1st that I was like, okay, new moon in my 4th house in Capricorn, clean and organize my home. And then I looked at my schedule and I was like, I can't really do all of this stuff until closer to the 3rd or the 4th. And now that I'm looking at the astrology, I'm like, oh, so it's perfect. That wasn't the time. I got planets going through my 6th house, which is like, okay, come up with a schedule, get organized, you know, declutter, give things away, donate things, and kind of come up with a plan before I do everything. And so for me, it very much is saying, actually, before you can get down to business, you have to clean house. You have to get things kind of out and out of the way. So, you know, there is something going on behind the scenes that makes me feel like really we're in this decluttering, clearing out, wrapping up, getting rid of things, purging things, forgiving people, you know, forgiving situations, getting closure, really all the way up till April. Okay, because there's so much action that's going to go on in the Pisces area with the retrogrades and the eclipses, where this is definitely going to be a theme. So this is only the beginning, I guess I would say. All right, so then as we kind of go throughout the rest of Saturday, that moon is going to be between, you know, Saturn and Neptune. So I'm hoping that Saturday can be a day for you where you're like getting able, you know, time to rest, or maybe you're meditating, doing some yoga. Maybe you're practicing kind of emotionally grounding or kind of clearing things out. It could also be a time, I think, where we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You know, we've got some of this energy in Pisces that is still kind of in a square with Mercury and Sag is going to be about the bigger picture and the truth and where we're going and what we're learning, and all of these squares that's happening to Jupiter in Gemini, which is really putting an emphasis on communication. And the truth is like all these planets in Pisces is almost kind of feeling like, well, we don't know where we're going yet. You know, we're still kind of waiting and seeing. So you might feel like that. Saturday and Sunday might feel a little slow for you, especially Saturday night going into Sunday. Pay attention to your dreams, your intuitions, your gut feelings, your omens with Venus in Pisces, and also with the moon in Pisces connecting with Neptune. We'll wake up on January 5th in the morning, and that's when the moon is conjunct Neptune. So this is probably going to be a Sunday that's a little slow. Soaking, bathing, being by water, listening to music, praying, meditating. These are things that I would encourage you guys to do on Sunday. I mean, this is going to be some really beautiful church services for some people with Venus being there. Some people may feel a strong calling to just be kind of coming together collectively with their religious or spiritual groups. Maybe they're feeling called to create altar spaces. Maybe they're feeling called to listen to certain musics or focus on some kind of like emotional healing. I really encourage you guys to do that, because with so many planets in Pisces, the vibes are going to be very different. They can be very beautiful and you can feel very much like in the zone. But some people can also kind of feel like it's very isolating or it's very lonely. So it depends on which camp you fall into. We're going to have plenty of time to kind of work with this Pisces energy. We're not even into Pisces season yet, and there's a ton of planets are already there. Just know that the energy shifts in a very dynamic way later in the day. So maybe you're feeling like this up until the time that the moon moves into Aries. If this were me, Saturday into Sunday should be quiet, reflective downtime. If you want to make plans, I would say make plans and go and do something closer to the afternoon. So it's going to be around noon Pacific time, 2 p.m. on the Central Time Zone, 3 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone. I know we've got people everywhere, so it's just your time. But when that moon shifts into Aries and it conjuncts the North Node, it's fueling off of Mars and it's trining Mars. So this is the time that's like, cool, you want to go and do date night? Go and do date night on Sunday. You want to go and, hang out with your friends? Go and do it Sunday evening. Go and do something creative. Go dancing, go work out, go hiking. Go and be more active the latter part of Sunday on the 5th. And you will just feel like the vibes are there. You're capable of doing that. And this is also where you can go and do things on your own. Moon in Aries is very independent. It's encouraging you to go and participate in things that are creative, fun, fulfilling. It's about talent and kind of self-expression. And we'll have the moon that's going to be in Aries that entire evening into Monday, the very next day. The only thing that you want to watch is with the moon in Aries, it is highlighting the Mars-Pluto opposition, where I honestly feel like some people are going to have spats with their friends. Some people are going to have spats with romantic partners, or there's some tension between your kids and, the friends that they have. Obviously, Aquarius could be other people's friends or other people's goals. And there's some tension. And if you start to see that there's some tension or some people who are creating some conflict, go your own way, do your own thing. You don't have to go and surround yourself with where there's drama, where there's going to be some kind of turbulence. Go and do your own thing on Sunday. The other thing to take into consideration is that this is right when Mercury is coming into a square with Neptune. So you won't actually see this perfect until Monday the 6th. But this is a part of a storyline that we have seen for some time, where since, November, Mercury was coming into a retrograde in Sag, where it was squaring Saturn. We felt some communication delays. It then came into an opposition with Jupiter, where there was big ideas and hearing people's perspectives. It went direct. It squared Saturn again, where we have had in this last week some traveling issues, maybe some communication issues. And the finale now is going to be Mercury squared Neptune. And it's almost like there's been this back and forth with like, can we believe this? Can we not? Is this real? Is it not? This entire period is when you've seen like the craziness of like all the drones all over the news and the media, and like the news anchors picking it up and people seeing it on Twitter and people posting videos and like TikTok. And just the big story revolving around, well, what's going on with these things flying in the air? Sagittarius is about planes and things that fly, by the way. So now Mercury is coming into a square with Neptune, kind of Sunday night going into Monday. It can mean that suddenly these storylines are vanishing. We're not hearing as much about it on the news. It can mean that there's some discrepancy, or there's room to believe that some of this has been fabricated, falsified, or modified in some way. Mercury is the communicator. It's the mind. It's things revolving around business and travel and commerce and learning. The higher mind, the truth, Mercury in Sag. And it's squaring Neptune in Pisces, which is like, well, what's the truth in regards to some of these videos that we're seeing? What's the truth in regards to some of these narratives that we're hearing about, international relations, or what's going on, with jets being in certain places, or, seeing some of these UFOs or some of these drones in certain places. I think that there can be some tall tales with Mercury square Neptune. I think there can also be some real issues with clarity and people who can be intentionally manipulating, which is also in the skies with Mars Pluto. That's a very manipulative, You know, am I being manipulated, or am I being, you know, the manipulator, or am I bullying other people type energy? So it can be hard to decipher fact from fiction, basically Sunday kind of going into Monday. So not the best energies to be like having serious conversations, trying to sign contracts, trying to kind of get any detail-oriented things done. I would say maybe wait until Mercury gets into Capricorn next week. That might be a better time to be doing those things. Okay? So that's this week in a nutshell. Be mindful of obviously all the squares and the oppositions. There is some good stuff that's sprinkled in the midst of all of this, but yeah, definitely some very big energies right at the kickoff of the year. Now, what I'd like to do is show you guys where Venus in Pisces is for each and every one of the 12 rising signs. I would like to do this for the whole sign. So I'm going to be, because it's an ingress, I'm going to use the whole sign method. You're going to want to listen to your rising sign first. This is going to tell you exactly which house Venus is moving into. If you use Placidus, you might have to listen to more than one rising sign, but generally listening to your rising whole sign is going to tell you about the effects of the Venus transit. Listen to your rising, your sun, and your moon sign. And remember that this is going to be impacting Taurus and Libra risings pretty strongly, as you guys are ruled by Venus. So wherever Venus is and her changing signs is going to impact you, as well as my Pisces sun, moon, and rising. And that's pretty much it. So let's take a look at the 12 rising signs and see where Venus is going. I'll give you guys a little bit of food for thought on this particular transit. We're going to start first with my Aries and Aries risings. What's up, guys? You're having Venus transiting your 12th house in Pisces over the next month. So this is the house of the subconscious. This is about secrets. It can also be about solitude. Venus rules committed partnerships, one-on-one relationships, therapists, romance, as well as money, resources, and values. So she will be making her way through your 12th house. And I always consider the 12th house as the cocoon before you become a butterfly. And I use this reference especially for Aries and Aries risings because Venus will go in and out of your first and your 12th house. Saturn and Neptune will go in and out of your first and your 12th house. Mercury will go in and out of your 12th house. So it's clear that it's almost like something new is getting ready to emerge, and in the spring and in the summer of this year. Okay, so it's now just, it's kind of in the ethers right now. Maybe it's something you're thinking about. Maybe it's something that you're keeping top secret. Maybe it's something that's just coming to you now intuitively in meditation. The themes here with Venus in the 12th house is going to be deep introspection. There can be some love affairs. There can be some kind of behind the scenes stuff going on relationship wise. But I think it's primarily spiritual enlightenment. And it can be about having situations where you had hidden enemies and like now they're becoming friends or they have something to offer you. And I predict that this is a time for inner healing, possibly uncovering hidden talents or desires within yourself. And I really recommend, practicing some kind of like meditation or introspective activity, resolving past issues or trauma, and embracing solitude for personal growth throughout this transit. If you can do this for the next month, Aries, you're going to see in February all of the physical positive effects this has on your aura, how you look, how you carry yourself, and you're going to realize, wow, this is really working. And then during the retrograde, you have a little bit more work to do. Okay? Good luck, Aries. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's going on, Taurus? Your chart ruler is on the move. She is switching signs. Venus is moving into Pisces in your 11th house of friendships, groups, and also your aspirations, your goals, your community. So the themes are obviously wherever Venus is where you are. So you want to be where the people are. You might be feeling like you want to be with mystics and creatives and artists and all this stuff. Maybe it's about idealistic friend groups or friendships. It could be group activities that involve art or spirituality and manifesting your dreams through community. Now, I predict that new friends might enter your life, and existing friends, you could deepen your relationship with them. There could be lots of shared ideals that you can have among some of your friends, parties, celebrations, gatherings, and get-togethers. And I think that if this were me, I would be joining groups with similar interests as myself, especially if you have creative or spiritual interests. setting long-term goals, especially with a compassionate heart. Venus is not just connected to you, but it's your 6th house. So this could be excellent for team meetings, team building exercises, working out with people, maybe going and doing some like training or some skill building exercises, you know, with a team, with a group of people. Professional networking can be really strong here as well, and be trying to like join groups or being a part of groups that want to help others. Okay. All right, Taurus, let me know what happens here for you. Hopefully lots of luxurious parties with good food and good wine. All right, we got Gemini and Gemini rising. What's up, Gemini? You got Venus going through your 10th house in Pisces, your career house. Now is the time, Gemini. This is a huge turning point for you the next couple of months when it comes to your career, your public image, and also your sense of authority. So Venus going into the 10th house, I'm predicting for you creative and compassionate approaches to your career, romanticizing work, public recognition for artistic endeavors. I predict that your career might benefit from either artistic or empathic, you know, qualities that you're using at work. You could gain public favor for the work that you're doing. You could get more recognition, especially if you're doing something where you're helping other people and you're giving to other people unconditionally. I do think that if this were me, what I would do is I would apply creativity to your career, focus on enhancing your public image and being authentic and kind, you know, networking with other people and trying to envision like your perfect dream job and bringing together the right people, the right team, you know, really putting your best foot forward when it comes to your relationship with bosses and superiors. Now, Venus is not only tied to your 12th house of what's hidden, so your hidden talents and being more charming and kind of aligning with people can help business-wise, but also creativity, really showing off your creativity, working with young people. And for some of you guys, love can be found in the workplace. There can be like this sense of like, you know, making changes at work and then meeting someone or working with younger people can definitely be a theme here as well. Good luck, Gemini. What a great transit that is for you. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You're going to experience Venus's transit into the sign of Pisces in your natal 9th house. And obviously this is a fellow sister water sign, so it'll be trining you, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and risings at some point throughout this transit. Now, when Venus goes through your 9th house of philosophy, travel, higher education, publishing, law, and legality, she's blessing you. So she's basically saying, hey, if these are things you need to focus on, I'm here to help. I think the theme here for you is like spiritual journeys, long distance relationships, romanticizing foreign cultures or philosophies, indulging in educational pursuits in art or spirituality, or potentially spending a little bit more money on traveling, like indulging in going somewhere. Now, I predict that you might feel drawn to learn more about different cultures or be traveling for love or feeling more inspired, maybe wanting to go back to school. And if this were me, I would plan a trip or a spiritual retreat of some kind, or maybe you know, you'll be traveling with a partner because Venus will meet Saturn. I think it's also going to be about studying subjects that feed your soul and really expand when it comes to your worldview. Now, Venus rules your 4th house of home and family and your 11th house of friends. So some of you guys might be traveling to go and visit a friend that lives in another place. Some of you guys might be planning on, you know, relocating somewhere further away. Some of you guys might be traveling back to a place, reconnecting to a romantic partner. Any of these things are possible. All I can tell you is that with, you know, Venus hitting Saturn several times throughout this transit, some of you guys are going to be traveling and meeting people or having a long distance relationship, or maybe even planning getting married or graduating. There could be some major ceremony that can be taking place for some of you guys. That's going to be very, very beneficial. Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. What's up, Leo? You're going to be experiencing Venus's transit through Pisces in your natal 8th house. Kind of sexy there. Obviously, this is a house of transformation, shared resources, intimacy. But planets go through the 8th house, they go through some kind of change. And the 8th house can be a house where there can be more sex, there can be more pleasure, there can be more focus on intimacy, emotional or psychological themes as well. Now, for you, this transit is all about spiritual or emotional intimacy. I think it can be touching on shared finances, possibly even psychic experiences, or just embracing some new fresh start in your life. I'm predicting for Leos that this is a time of deep emotional healing, healing wounds, healing issues with vulnerability. I think this can be very beneficial when it comes to financial mergers or receiving funds or support from another person. And if this were me, I would engage in therapy or deep conversations with your partners. Really focus on managing your shared resources wisely. Really touching on anything mystical or magical. And the 8th house can be like the occult, but it can also be like life after death. Some of you guys might be wanting to invest money into talking to a psychic, talking to a medium, you know, trying to kind of communicate or connect with someone who is lost. And Venus is connected to your 3rd house. So it's about communication, siblings, movement, cars, and learning. And it's also connected to your 10th house of career. So there can be conversations and negotiations or contracts that can be positively influencing your finances. So you might renegotiate a salary. You might be filing a claim for something relating to a car, getting reimbursed. You might be kind of seeking out whether or not you want to trade something in, or if you want to get a loan maybe for a vehicle. And I would really use this for kind of business negotiations and finding ways to do business with other people that can kind of benefit you as well. Okay. Good luck, Leo. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. What's going on, Virgo? You have got Venus transiting Pisces in your 7th house of relationships. And this is going to be, I think, a really extra sweet transit for you, very karmic for you, some of these transits in your 7th house of others. So when we deal with the 7th house, it's partnerships, it can be marriage. 7th house is also like your therapist, your astrologer, and it can be seen as open enemies. So it's people who will confront you that you have to deal with. So with Venus going through the 7th house, this is about seeking soulmate connections. This is about understanding in relationships and sometimes possibly idealizing partners. Now, I predict here that relationships can actually deepen emotionally, and new partnerships might form with artistic or kind of spiritual people. Obviously, Venus is relating to your money and your income and your resources, and it's also about traveling, your belief system, education. Some of you guys might be investing money in a therapist, or maybe you're investing money with an astrologer. Maybe you're spending more money or talking to your partner more about travel or about ceremonies or marriage or legal fees. There could be legal stuff that's coming up in relationships. I predict that, really this is going to be a time where you're supposed to be working on partnership dynamics, being more empathic with partners, and also like negotiating with compassion and being open to new connections. So if you're single, having Venus in this house and eclipses in the spring is a really good indication that you're probably going to meet somebody, or that there is some kind of partner that's coming into your life that you're supposed to be meeting and connecting with. For committed relationships, I think with like Saturn and Venus there, it can feel like there is a test going on in relationships, a test of values, and it can be about money or spending or resources and that kind of stuff, and whether or not you're feeling supported by your other half. Now, I do think that something that I would just watch for is, as you're coming into the shadow, what's going on with some of these relationships? And, do you feel like something is cooling off and tapering off, or do you feel like you're about to kind of have like a reset? So you're going to have to look closer to like the end of January going into February for the gauge. But having Venus in its exaltation, having Venus in the 7th house, and Venus meeting your 5th house Lord Saturn might mean that there's just a more serious commitment that's going to go on in a relationship that could be kind of bringing you and another person together more closely. Could it be saying I love you? Could it be having a kid? Could it involve children? Could it involve traveling? All of these things are possible, and this is not necessarily a bad transit to have at all. All right, so let me know, Virgo. I want to hear how that plays out for you. We have got Libra and Libra rising. Libra, you've got Venus, your chart ruler, on the move. She's moving into Pisces in the 6th house. And truth be told, Libra, this is not the easiest place to have Venus kind of going through, because the 6th house is It's about hard work, service. It's about also your health. This is also the house where we air out issues and we deal with problems. So the positive is that Venus is a planet that is beneficial. She wants to bring pleasure. She wants to bring indulgence. She wants to bring love and comfort. Venus in the 6th house means that you need to get comfortable with your office space. You need to get comfortable working out. You need to get comfortable when it comes to health habits and routine. You need to treat this as something that is luxurious. So spending a little bit of more money on new furniture, new furnishings for your office space, you know, focusing on the relationships maybe that you have in the office with coworkers. Maybe you're spending a little bit more time with pets or a little bit more money on pets. Maybe you are indulging more in kind of Eastern medicine practices or spas or detoxes and, you know, going and getting lymphatic massages and things like that. That is going to be indulgent, but it's for your health, right? So Venus doesn't just rule your 1st house, it rules your 8th house of joint finances, resources, and, you know, joint money. So it can mean that you're airing out some stuff revolving around, you know, organization of your finances, what you guys are spending, what you're paying off if you're in a committed relationship. I feel like this is just really emphasizing like work-life balance and finding time for compassionate service and indulging more in your health habits. So I predict that work might also involve more creativity, more empathy. Health could be affected by your emotional states. Obviously, that's going to be important, knowing that Venus is going to retrograde eventually into the 6th house, but it'll go from the 7th. So some Libras and Libra risings are going to go, working in this environment, it's not healthy for me. Working for this company, it's not healthy for me. Being in this relationship, it's got problems. And you air those problems out basically when the retrograde happens in March. So some of you guys will clear some of your contracts, whether it's karmically or business-wise. I would just say for right now, focus on holistic health, find harmony in your work environment. And, you know, Venus hitting Saturn might mean that you're going to do something where you're going to sacrifice some of your time, right? Or you're going to be really, you know, helping take care of an aging parent or an aging pet. Maybe you're taking care of an issue at work. You're organizing something with fellow employees. If you work with Saturn and you make a sacrifice to something, you know, this can be something that can kind of neutralize some of the negative impacts that can kind of happen with this transit. Okay. Let me know, Libra, what do you think? What are you planning? You guys gonna go on a cleaning spree like me? All right, we got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. What's up, Scorpio? You're gonna be experiencing Venus's transit in Pisces in your natal 5th house. Honestly, this is probably one of the better transits, one of the better signs. Obviously, Venus is moving through a water sign, so it's friendly with you, Scorpio. It's gonna be trining your sun, moon, or your rising. Venus going through the 5th house deals with creativity, romance, and children. You know, what you will see, one of the themes that can come up off the bat is romantic escapism, okay? So what are you afraid of when it comes to love? Where are you avoidant? Where are you not sure if you want to participate in dating? Where are you unsure how to move forward? But this can bring heightened creativity, joy through children, artistic projects, opportunities for romance. You know, Venus is still your 7th house ruler, so you've got your marriage ruler going through the 5th. So if you're looking for something serious, if you want more togetherness, romance, and intimacy with a partner, or you want to find someone, this is a great transit to do that. Venus is also the ruler of the 12th house. So this is where I bring up the romantic escapism bit, because you could be like, I want it, but you could be not aware of all of the things that are holding you back from connecting to someone. And it could be lack of self-love. It could be lack of clarity. It could be fear in regards to repeating past habits in relationships. What I would recommend is, you know, really be open to romance. You know, be open to meeting somebody. Be open to new creative, inspirational periods. You know, painting, dancing, writing, performing, anything like that can really be kind of like a channel for opening your heart space up. Engage in creative arts, nurture existing romantic relationships, and spend time with children or in like childlike activities that are going to help you feel inspired. Okay, this is a good one. I think it's a really good romance transit for Scorpio and Scorpio rising. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You guys will be experiencing Venus's transit in Pisces in the natal 4th house. So for Sagittarius, this is bringing the emphasis to your home, your family, property, anything in regards to roots, and obviously a desire for emotional security at home, and maybe like beautifying your living space, focusing on family harmony. If you're looking to bring in money from property or income, you could. This could be a time when you're thinking about redesigning something in your house. Maybe a woman is coming to stay with you throughout this transit with Venus in your 4th. I really feel like this is about romanticizing your home life and trying to figure out how to bring your space together, how to be able to make it this like perfect, ideal version of your home. And maybe you're not doing it yet. Maybe there's going to be planning where you're going to be getting tiles and colors and paint, and you're thinking about how you want to design your home or renovate your home or what you want it to look like. And you'll probably start doing that. You know, if not now, you'll be working on it all the way through the time that Venus goes direct, sometime in April. Otherwise, it could be more about family relationships, or just, you know, creating a much more beautiful kind of home environment and having gatherings and togetherness with family. Venus rules your 11th house of friends and your 6th house of home, organization, coworkers, pets. So you could be like, how do I create an entertainment space? How do I create a space where I can have people over? How do I organize it? How do I make time to do this? What little tweaks and changes and fixes do I have to do to make this more beautiful? And Pisces can be your kitchen. It could also be things involving water. So some of you guys are going to go, I want fountains. I want a new, you know, faucet. I want new baths. While others are like, how do we change the feng shui in the home? And what elements do we bring in? What mirrors or art do we put up to create a little bit more of a flow in a space where you feel like you can kind of entertain? I would just say most of the time you want to redecorate your home. You know, I wouldn't do this yet. I would say find the inspiration, start pulling everything together, wait until after the retrograde. Do spend time with family, heal family dynamics, focus on compassion, especially when it comes to situations involving older home or family matters. Could be stuff from the past is coming up. You're forgiving a parent for something. Maybe you're forgiving, you know, a family member for something. Maybe you're able to have some sit down family gathering or dinner or something where you can kind of smooth things over and better some of these dynamics. Good luck, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You'll experience Venus's transit through Pisces in your natal 3rd house. I really feel like for Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, this is a good transit for you guys because Venus is going to be dancing with Saturn. So obviously that's your ruler, Capricorn. So Venus coming into conjunction with Saturn could be some really significant karmic things happening with 3rd house people. So it could be siblings, it could be neighbors, it could be contracts, it could be vehicles. It really just depends. But Venus does rule your career and your status, and it also rules your children. So there could be like, okay, there's a new status change. I'm announcing to the world I'm going to be a parent, or I'm single, or I'm getting married. There could also be really significant professional conversations, contracts, negotiations. Some of you guys might even decide that you're wanting to create a new website or you're wanting to promote a new business. But I would focus just with Saturn and Venus being in the 3rd house and like gentle, empathetic, communication with other people. And also romantic or artistic dialogues might be kind of going on. I predict relationship with siblings or neighbors. They can improve under this transit. Communication can be more kind of poetic or imaginative. So creative writing, poetry, design, anything like that can be great with Venus in the 3rd. And to make the most of this transit, I would use it for creative writing or learning, mending relationships through kind words, you know, sending apology letters, making phone calls, reconnecting with people, sending thank you letters, and also enjoying short, like kind of getaway trips. I think that you may be able to swing traveling for work. That might happen. I also feel like this can be a time where you might meet somebody in your local community, or while you're going for a walk, or you're driving, or maybe even you meet somebody on an app, because the 3rd house can be about applications. But really this is just improving dialogue, communication, being more persuasive, being able to kind of connect with people in a sweeter way, and that it can benefit you romantically, but it can also benefit you professionally as well. Good luck. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You will be experiencing Venus's transit in Pisces in your natal second house of money, income, values, and possessions. Great transit. Venus likes being in the second house. It can definitely bring financial generosity. There can also be increased possible spending on comfort or luxury purchases, and really valuation of peace over material gain. Like there may be some sense in some things over the next like month or two where you're like, it's not worth the problem, I'll just pay for it, you know? Or I would just to make it easy, I'm just gonna purchase this now, or I'm going to be giving somebody a gift to try to like make amends. So there can definitely be money spent with this transit. Venus coming into conjunction with Saturn several times means that your generosity, your kindness, your selflessness will be rewarded. If you're paying things forward, they are going to come back to you. If you're being generous with other people and you're being more conservative with your own purchases, money will be coming back to you. It also means that, you know, there can be this sense of like your intuition about your finances becoming kind of like heightened. And you can attract money through artistic or spiritual pursuits here as well because it's in Pisces. I would review your spending habits, invest in things that bring you emotional, spiritual satisfaction. I would also practice gratitude for what you have. And I think you are already doing these things. I think with Saturn in your second house, you're probably already kind of taking a much more kind of like, you know, minimalist type of, you know, kind of look at your finances, and maybe you're like, I can do, you know, with less, it's fine, I don't need it, or I'm cutting back, or I'm holding back. And maybe you've been saving for something and then you make a purchase. Maybe you have been holding off on something and now you're like, okay, I'm going to splurge on travel or education or going on a retreat, or, you know, I've been saving because I'm planning on moving. You know, Venus is connected to your fourth house. So if you've been wanting to make a big investment, like buying a home, relocating somewhere, going to school, or making a big purchase, you may be in the preparation or the beginning phase of getting ready to do that because you've been so conservative with your resources. Okay? Great transit, Venus in the second house. Let me know how that goes for you guys. And then last but not least, we got Pisces and Pisces rising. So you guys will like this transit because Venus is in your sign. So this is an interesting one for you. The first like 3.5 weeks of the month of January, I think it's really great. Venus in your first house is attracting, it's bringing more people in because it's enhancing your identity and your appearance. It's making you even more beautiful than you usually are. But Venus is, you know, in the first house connected to your eighth. So you might be a little bit more sexual, a little bit more provocative. You might just be getting more attention from people. Maybe you're changing and transforming something about your look. Your relationship to other people is changing. You're more focused on yourself. You're not as focused on others. You're investing more in yourself, and you're tuning into your emotions and your feelings. Venus is also connected to your third house of communications and learning. So I feel like for you guys, increased charm, sensitivity, and intuition is here. There's a huge focus on personal aesthetics and how you look. Keep in mind, like I said, Venus will retrograde in the beginning of March, and it will go into shadow at the end of January. So if you're a Pisces sun or rising, and you're like, I was going to get a surgery, I was going to get cosmetic work, I was going to do this, I was going to do that, I'd be like, don't. You know, you may not be seeing yourself very clearly with Venus and Saturn and Neptune in the first house. There could be lack of value and seeing that you are good enough, you are beautiful enough, you are capable enough, that there are some emotional shifts that need to happen. Maybe you wait for that to settle a little bit and then make sure, you know, come March, April, May, that you still want to change those things, that there could be issues with how you're perceiving yourself, and some emotional healing could happen, and you may feel like, actually, I don't need to make those changes. Equally, you could make cosmetic changes like hairstyle, you know, makeup stuff that you think you like and then you realize you don't. So be careful with making any drastic changes right now. I would just kind of wait till the dust settles in the spring. But look forward to the increased charm, sensitivity, and intuition. I do feel like you'll be more compassionate, creative, and a little bit more dreamy. Like you're romanticizing your life, which I think is a good thing. You're treating yourself well. You're prioritizing yourself. And people are definitely going to find you more attractive and more appealing. Even if you're not doing anything, Venus being in your sign will do that. I would work on self-love. You can try a new style, but do something temporary and engage in creative projects that reflect your inner self. Write love letters to yourself, speak kindly to yourself. Start writing and keeping a journal of what you're manifesting and what you're bringing in, because Venus is connected to your third house of what you write, what you say, what you learn. And be really focused on what you're transforming, because we want to activate Venus's connection to your eighth in regards to the relationship with yourself, and like be talking about how everything that you want is coming to you easily and it's at your fingertips, and you know, you're able to bring in everything that you're kind of manifesting. And with the retrograde, it could mean money, it could mean changes in style, it could mean relationships. But right now, it's a major prioritize yourself, focus on what you love, what you value, what you want, what you see for yourself. So that way you can actually call that in during the retrograde periods later in the spring. I'm curious to see how this goes for you guys too. You'll have to let me know. With that being said, I hope that was helpful. You know, obviously look forward to other videos throughout this sequence as we get closer to the end of January. We'll do like a Venus retrograde. We'll really take a deep dive and we'll look at what that can mean. Maybe I'll pull up some like historical examples and we'll kind of see what's happened in the past. But let me know, what are you guys feeling like with this new moon? What are you guys feeling with the Mars-Pluto stuff? Are you kind of eyeballing that opposition like I am? And what is going to be like the next big like scam, or I guess like media narrative with Mercury square Neptune? I think it's been interesting. It's been a lot more people who are also like freaked out about like health stuff and like wearing masks and stuff too. And I think that's been part of this. So I'm curious to see how you guys are seeing these manifest. Obviously, I love hearing from you. Leave me your comments below, and I will like them, get back to them, comment on them. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like this video and consider sharing this on your socials. Please do subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel grow, and we're getting so close to 40,000 subscribers. So you guys can make that possible by subscribing. And you guys can follow me on X at BTV Astro if you want to see my Astro antics and me talking about stuff throughout the week. Pretty active on there. And enjoy your guys' new year. I'm wishing you all a happy new year. I hope you guys join me for my 2025 stuff. It's not too late to join, so click the links below at beyondtheveiltarot.com. And I will see you guys back here next year. And remember, we're going to have live readings this Friday. So not only will I be live for the stuff on Wednesday, but Friday we're going to be live readings as well. So check the community tab for that. Have a happy new year, and I will catch you guys all back here in 2025. Take care.